you know that. That's my latest, by the way, that's my latest book, High Road Leadership. It's been out 3 months. Sold 106,000 copies in 3 months.
Woo!
To make the New York Times bestseller on a show, you have to do is sell 27,000 copies in that period of time. So I made the New York Times bestseller list 4 times over. And that's what happens if you've written about leadership all your life. I've written 90 books. Somebody said, gosh, that's a lot of books to write. I said, well, there's only one qualification, that is you have to be old. You can't write 90 books if you aren't old, can you? Let's go back to the 21 laws, and let me talk to you a little bit about it. And by the way, if you haven't read it, you need to get it. It's the best-selling leadership book ever written. It's in 57 different languages. It's sold millions of copies. But it's foundational for your leadership. The 21 laws is the foundation of leadership itself. And the reason it's a breakthrough book for several reasons. When I wrote the 21 Laws of Leadership, what it did is it helped people understand the complexity of leadership. Leadership is more than one thing. A lot of times people say, well, if you have vision, you're a leader. Well, I know a lot of people have vision and they're not a good leader really at all. They can see things they want to accomplish, but they can't bring the team together to make it happen. So leadership is more than one thing. In fact, it's 21 things. That's why I call it the 21 Laws of Leadership. And they're all laws. And I started with 56. It took me 3 years to whittle it down to 21 laws of leadership. And what makes this book really work is the fact that when you take your team and yourself through it. In fact, I would encourage you, if you haven't read the book, take yourself through the 21 Laws of Leadership, and from a 1 to a 5, rate yourself, 5 being top, 1 being not too hot. And what you're going to find is when you start doing this, is that you're really strong in some areas and you're not so strong in others. Are you with me? And what this book did is it helped people understand that if you're really going to develop a great leadership organization, you need to have a team. Because, for example, one of the laws is the law of navigation. The law of navigation basically says anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. Navigation is about how do you lead day to day? How do you navigate day by day your company? Well, that's not a real strength of mine. The law of navigation, from 1 to 5, I'm a 2, probably. And there are, in fact, of the 21 laws, there are 5 laws that I would probably be average, 3 or 2. Well, what does that tell me? That tells me that if I really want to have a good leadership organization, I've got to get a team around me. I've got to get a navigator. You follow me? Because what is a quarterback doesn't get paid to run the ball, he gets paid to distribute the ball. You know, you put it in the hands of the person that can give you the best chance of making yardage. And so that's how leadership is. Leadership is the fact that it doesn't mean I lead all the time. In fact, in the 5 or 6 areas that I would be average in, I don't lead at all. We hand that ball off to someone else. So what happened is this helped people understand how to really develop a leadership team. Because one of the questions I'm asked a lot of times is people talk to me about balance. How do you balance your life? And I say you don't balance your life. Life's not balanced. If life isn't balanced, you can't balance your life. You don't think of balancing your life, you think of seasons in your life. You've got to think seasons. That's a whole different lecture. But the point being, very simple, is there's no such thing as a balanced leader, but there is such a thing as a balanced team. Because when you get a good team around you, they don't compete with you, they complete you. They complement you. And so the 21 Laws really teaches you to how to assess yourself and assess your team until everybody kind of understands where their leadership niche is, so they could best as a team really provide some huge success. There are several characteristics about the laws. I'll give you just maybe 1 or 2 quickly. The laws have consequences. They're called laws because they're laws. They're not principles or they're not good ideas, they're laws. Laws are just very much that this is the way it really works. And I had to take it through a grid. I had to take it through the time grid. Every one of the 21 laws would work 100 years ago as a leadership, and it will work 100 years from now. It's timeless. It's timeless. It has to work in every culture, because there are so many different cultures, so different countries. So I had a grid for these laws, but one of the things we discovered is that if you learn them, you're going to be very successful as a leader. If you don't learn them and practice them, honestly, you're not going to be successful at all. And so when the book came out, it was so popular, it made the bestseller list in 2 weeks and just stayed there for years. That I spent 3 years just traveling the world teaching the 21 laws. So I'm signing the 21 laws in a book line after I talked. And so a guy comes up to me and he hands me the book for me to sign it, and he said, I disagree with one of your laws. And I said, well, that's okay. I signed it and handed it back to him, and he didn't move. And looked at it, he said, I don't think you heard me. He said, I disagree with one of your laws. I said, well, no, I heard you. And then I looked at him, and then I could realize that it wasn't okay with him, that it was okay with me, that I didn't care. Because I didn't care. I don't care. Well, he disagrees with one law. I don't care. That's fine. And then, so I looked at him and said, you have to understand, I wrote the book to help you, not to make you happy. This isn't a happy book. This is a help book. If you want to be happy, you're going to have to go get a comedian's book. I'm a leader, not a clown, so I'm trying to help you. And this is one of the laws, and this is the way it's kind of like verse says, I don't agree with the law of gravity. I don't care. I really don't care. Just trust me, go up to a 5-story building, jump off. You will buy into the law of gravity. See, the laws never look at you and say, do you like me? Do you agree with me? They're just laws. And that's what made the book so powerful and so effective is they just work. They just work really good. So because they really work good, let me teach you probably just 3. And the 3 I won't teach you long, but I teach you these 3 because it'll allow me to teach you something else that this will be foundational for you. So let me talk about 3 of the laws in the next 10 minutes, 12 minutes. The first law I want to talk to you about is the most important law, and it happens to be the first law of the 21 laws. They aren't given in order, except the first one is the first one. And it's called the law of the lid, L-I-D. And the law of the lid just simply says how well you lead determines how well you succeed. And the reason this law is so essential to your life is, listen to me very carefully, everything rises and falls on leadership. Period. End of story. I can now go get on my plane and go to San Francisco and speak. Everything rises and falls. Not some things, not most things. Everything. Everything gets better when you lead well. Everything gets worse if you don't lead well. It rises and falls on leadership, period. Nothing else, nothing else. You can be a very good entrepreneur and do a lot of things very well, but if you can't lead very well, it's only a matter of time. Because when you lead, you then begin to bring other people in the picture. You see, the only way you can compound money, time, influence, all that stuff is through other people. You can't be a one-man band. I mean, you can be a one-man band and you make some money, but you can't make a huge amount of money if you're a one-man, but you gotta have other people. If you gotta have other people, guess what you have to do? You have to lead them well. If you can lead them well, they do well. If you can't lead them well, they don't do very well. So your ability to lead is so essential to your and my success. Maybe a good way to teach that would be this. Let's use my hand as a visual illustration for a second. Let's just say I'm an average leader. If 10 is here and if 1 is down here, I'm a 5. I'm an average. So this hand represents my leadership lid. Okay? Now what's the leadership lid? What are my leadership skills? This is how well Maxwell leads. He's average. He's a 5. Not a 10, not a 1. He's average. He's a 5. This is my lid. Don't miss this. This is my lid. Now, in the history of mankind, what I'm about to teach you, there are no exceptions. So there's not going to be an exception with you. I just want you to know that because you're going to think there is, but there's not. My name's John. I'm your friend. I'm here to help you, not make you happy. If my leadership lid is a 5, my business will come under, but never go higher than my leadership lid. And it won't go higher because it's a lid. It won't let me go higher. So if I'm a 5 as a leader, my business is going to be a 4. Period. End of story. In the history of mankind, it's never happened where you have a 5 leadership lid in your organization, and somehow everybody climbs over that lid and just keeps going, and you're an average leader, but you have a phenomenal company. It's never happened in the history of the world, so it ain't going to happen with you. So when I do Q&A, people are always asking me, they'll say, John, are leaders born? Whenever they ask me the question, are leaders born? I give them the same answer every time. Of course they are. Think about that question. Are leaders born? Yeah. I've never met an unborn leader. And don't plan to either. Now, they're not really asking, are leaders born? What they're really asking is, when you're born, are there some people they got it? And they go to the front of the line. That's called leadership. And some people, they don't got it. They go to the back of the line. That's called followership. That's what they're asking. And what I want you to know is that you can develop yourself as a leader. In other words, you don't have to be born a leader to be a great leader. Because leadership skills and good values can be taught. I know that for a fact, again, because I have the largest leadership equipment organization in the entire world. We've trained millions and millions of leaders. We have thousands and thousands of coaches that train thousands and thousands of people in small groups how to lead. So you can learn to lead. That's huge. Every one of you can learn to lead. I don't want you to miss that. In fact, look at your neighbor and tell the person sitting beside you right now. Look at them and say, even you. Go ahead and tell them. Even you. Even you. That's kind of fun. We've been waiting for that for a while. Yeah, even you can learn. Now, can we go back to the hand? Talk to me. If I'm a 5 as a leader, that's my leadership lid. What's my organization? What's the number? It's a 4. 4 going higher. But we just determined you can learn leadership skills and you can develop yourself as a leader. So you can go from a 5 over time to a 6 to a 7, maybe an 8. Now the leadership lid has been lifted. Now what happens to my team? They can go from a 4 to a 5 to a 6 to a 7. In other words, as you raise your lid, you raise the lid of everybody in your organization. And now what happens is, if you just raise your lid, you will have a single person return. But if you start raising the lid of your team, you can have a multi-people return, which then begins to compound your success. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Another law is the law of process. And the law of process simply says, leaders develop daily, not in a day. In other words, for you to become a great leader, it takes time. We overestimate the event and we underestimate the process. We overestimate a day like this. We're here together, you're getting great teaching from great people, it's going to help you tremendously, but we overestimate the return on a day. But we underestimate the return on a process. I'm here to tell you, and I know this for a fact, consistency compounds. Huge. I know that. I know that because for 55 years, I've been teaching leadership. So people come to me and they say, my gosh, you're the #1 expert in the world in leadership. Well, of course I've been teaching for 55 years, I'm good. But when you teach for 55 years, everybody else has died. This is huge. I do a lot of stuff with real estate right now because real estate's not doing very well. It's a very difficult time for real estate. So I tell them, I said, what a great time to be in real estate. And they kind of look at me and and I said, it's a huge time because you work hard to really be better than your competition so you can either hold them back or eliminate them. I said, what's really great about bad times, you don't have to work hard. Bad times eliminate your competition. This is so huge. I tell them, I say, my gosh, what a great time for you. All the people, look at all the people that are dropping out. And every day they drop, I say, oh my gosh, oh happy day. One less. And by the way, they'll all come back. They always come back. They leave in hard times, they come back in good times. And they wonder why they're not successful. Well, you're not successful if you leave in hard times and come back. Because when they come back, you're already there. And if you're already there, when they come back, they're behind you. You already have a step on it. And the fastest person doesn't win the race, never has won the race. I don't know why anybody thinks that's true. It's the person who starts first. Always has. Start first and stay in the game. And all of a sudden, it begins to come. If you're persistent, you'll get what you want. If you're consistent, you'll keep what you want. A bunch of people can get it. Very few keep it. Trust me. A lot of people can be good once in a while. Few people can be good all the time. So if I had a genie wish, genie pops out and says, Maxwell, what do you wish for? I know what my wish would be. My wish would be, not that you see me now, because everything's compounding in my life. Everything's compounding. My companies are compounding, my money's compounding, my influence is compounding. It's so ridiculous, I'm not really sure I can stop the compounding. It's so big, it's so incredible. I just sit there and say, oh my gosh, how do you stop this incredible rush of success? But it's compounding. But I've been in the game for 55 years. Understand that. Don't miss it. It compounds over time. If I had a genie wish, I wish you could have seen me when I was 22, 23. I wish you could have seen me when I was your age. I wasn't any good. I'm not trying to be humble, I just wasn't that good. I was that good of a communicator, wasn't that good of a leader, wasn't making that huge amount of money. I wasn't that good. If you could have seen me when I was 22, 23, everybody in this room would be greatly encouraged. You'd say, oh my gosh, he wasn't very good. And look how he is now. I'm more passionate about personal growth and development than about leadership or anything else. Because your intentionality in personally developing and growing yourself has no limits to it. And when I was in my 20s, I had a mentor sit down with me one morning for breakfast at the Holiday Inn in Lancaster, Ohio. And he said, John, what is your plan for growth? I didn't have a plan for growth. There isn't anybody ever walked in my life said I had to have a plan for growth. It never entered my mind to have a plan for growth. And when he asked me what was my plan for growth, I looked at him and I had that kind of blank look. And I just kind of thought, well, if you just work hard, you'll over time you'll, I guess, get good. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, let me explain something to you. Getting older is automatic. Just keep breathing. Getting better is not automatic. If you're going to get better, you have to be intentional. I went to my friends for the next few months and I said, do you have a plan for growth? Not one of my friends had a plan for growth. None of us. I didn't, they didn't. And then all of a sudden it hit me. Most people go through life without an intentional plan for personal growth and development. I said, wow, I've got to get a plan. I didn't know how to, had nobody to show me how. I found out that Success Motivation Institute in Waco, Texas had a goal-setting kit that I could buy for $799, and this is clear back in 1973. That was like a month's salary for me. And I didn't have a credit card, I didn't have any money. In fact, my wife Marta and I sat down and we said, you know, I need this growth plan, but I don't, you know, can't afford it. So we just decided to sacrifice, and it took us 6 months. We saved $799 and bought the kit. Over the next 2 years, I listened to those cassette tapes and I filled in every blank, and I just wrote things down and I practiced what they pray. And for 2 years, I practiced goal setting. If you go to my office in Florida, my home office in Florida, from my desk where I write, about 12 feet to my left is that growth kit. I look at it and I just smile. I paid $799 for it. It took me 6 months to afford it. It's returned millions of dollars to me. Millions. The most important investment that you will ever make in your life is an investment in yourself. And we're not being selfish. This is not a selfish thought. It sounds selfish in the beginning, but the reason you have to invest in yourself first is you cannot give what you do not have. So don't try to fake it till you make it crap. You either got it or you don't. As my mentor John Wooden used to say, don't tell me what you're going to do, show me what you're going to do. And when you start investing in you, now you have something to give others. Now you can start investing in others. But you can't invest in others. So all of you need to constantly be asking yourself, what am I doing today to invest in me that allows me to do well? Because the only attraction you have of bringing people to you, in the 21 laws, this is one of the laws I was going to teach, but I'm going to teach it now for a moment because it just popped in my mind. One of the laws is the law of magnetism, and the law of magnetism says we attract who we are, not who we want. I just watch people all the time, and they'll say, well, here's what I want in my company. I want somebody that's high energy, okay? You want high energy. I want somebody that's creative, okay? You want somebody that's creative, okay? I want somebody that's a good team player, okay? You want a team player, okay? You get high energy, creative, team player, okay? Those are all good. Those are good. Make your list. And these are the people I want my team. And I look up and say, let me ask you a very simple question. Does this describe you? Are you high energy? Are you creative? Are you a good team player? Because you don't attract who you want. You attract who you are. If you're not that, you can't attract that. That doesn't come to you unless that's you. You don't attract people to you that look at you and say, I'm already better than them. That's why this law of the limit is huge. If you're a 5 as a leader, listen to me carefully. My name is John. I'm your friend. If you're a 5 as a leader, you don't attract 7s. A 7, an 8 never woke up in the morning and said, I would love to follow a 5. 8s don't follow 5s. Why don't they follow? Because they're better than you. Why would they follow you? You don't even know what you're doing. They already know more than you. 5s don't attract 8s. If you want to attract 8s, you got to become an 8. You attract who you are, not who you want. And the moment that you begin to understand that, then all of a sudden you say, now I invest in myself. To invest in yourself, it's a process. It's a long game. It's not a short game. It's a long game. And it's an intentional long game. Since my hand's already in the air, let me illustrate. Everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything. There is nothing in your life that is worthwhile that's not uphill. Everything worthwhile. If you have a dream, it's an uphill dream. I've never heard of a great downhill dream. It's all uphill. What part of uphill don't we understand? It's all uphill. It's not quick. It's not easy. It's all uphill. And to go uphill, you have to be intentional. No one accidentally climbed uphill. If you're at the top of the mountain and somebody says, how did you get to the top of the mountain? You don't look at him and say, oh my gosh. Had no idea. I just woke up and here I am. Hello? You're not a leader, you're on drugs. The problem is this. This is what we want. This is what we get. World difference between this and this. This is uphill, this is downhill. This is worthwhile, this is worth less. But this is what we get. Because we have uphill hopes. But we have downhill habits. And you can't go uphill with a downhill habit. My name is John, and I'm your friend. And one of the downhill habits people have is that they can be successful very quickly, or that they can become a terrific leader in a very short period of time. It's a process. It's a process. So I'm in my 20s. I'm in my 20s. I heard Earl Nightingale say, if you'll spend 1 hour every day on the same subject for 5 years, 1 hour every day, same subject for 5 years, he said you'll become an expert on the subject. And I thought, oh my gosh. Earl Nightingale says if I spend 1 hour a day on leadership every day for 5 years, I could become an expert on leadership. And I was young, but I was already totally falling in love with leadership because I believed and bought into the fact that everything rises and falls on leadership, which it does. So I said, I'm going to try that experiment. I'm going to give it a 5-year run. I'm going to spend 1 hour a day, every day on leadership for 5 years. And I did. Now I'm thinking, 5 years I become an expert, so I start my growth journey in a countdown mode, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Expert, yay, touchdown. So every day, I'm practicing leadership, I'm teaching leadership, I'm reading leadership, I'm asking leadership questions. Every day, an hour, leadership, leadership, leadership. And every day, how long will it take? How long will it take? How long will it take? Well, how long will it take? How long will it take? Well, 5, 4, 3. I'm like Cape Canaveral. And halfway through the 5 years, one day, I stopped asking the question, how long will it take? This was a life-changing day. About halfway in that 5-year mark, up until that, how long will it take? How long will it take? Well, how long will it take? How long will it take? And one day I said, oh, that's the wrong question. Now, why did I stop asking how long will it take? Very simple. I was growing as a leader. I was getting better. I was building a team. I had the 10th largest nonprofit organization in America, 28. I quit asking how long will it take when I started experiencing the growth of that process. I was becoming a better leader. More people were joining the team. Those who were joining the team, I was training them how to lead, and success was starting to come, and it was beginning to be, and you see, the moment you start growing yourself, you start growing your people, you start growing your organization, you no longer ask how long will it take. You're no longer in a countdown mode. It's not like a 5-year sentence that you're trying to complete. Now, I stopped asking that question when I was 28. I haven't asked that question since. I still don't ask the question, how long will it take? I changed the question, how long will it take, to one that I'm still asking at 77. I don't ask how long will it take. I simply ask, how far can I go? How far can I go? And by the way, I don't know. Still can't answer the question because I'm still learning. I'm still growing. My companies are still booming. Lives are being changed. We're still compounding. Oh my gosh, it's kind of like, I don't know how far it can go. I haven't found the finish line. In fact, I've written 90 books, but I have 13 books in the line to be written. They're in what I call the birth book line. Would you give me birth? We're ready, birth me. And one of the books I want to write will be entitled, Is There a Finish Line? It's going to be a great book. They're all great. That's why we sold 38 million. You got to be good to sell 38 million. Your mother can't buy that many books. Is there a finish line? For most people, there's a finish line. Most people have a self-imposed finish line. When I get to a certain age, I'll retire. When I make a certain amount of money, I'll retire. When I get to that position, and they have a finish line, and it's self-imposed. Now, if you have a finish line in your life, it's okay, I don't care. It's like the law of gravity, go for it. Let me explain something to you. If you have a self-imposed finish line, when you cross it, you're finished. What part of that do you not understand? All of a sudden, you're dead, you just haven't made it official yet. You don't want to have a self-imposed finish line. You want to keep growing. You see, at 77, I've been growing now for 50 plus years. Intentionally, personally, personal growth plan, all the time. Every day, intentionally growing. My growth capacity is 100x what anybody else is in this room. I'm so sorry. I can outgrow you so fast, it isn't even, we don't even want to do the match, okay? I don't want to discourage you. Why? Because I've been building growth capacity for 55 years. And you're building growth capacity if you're growing right now. But your growth capacity increases as you get older. That's why my father, highly successful. At 92, we're having lunch. He said, son, look at me. I looked at him. He's 92. He said, I've been thinking about this. He says, I believe my greatest years are still ahead of me. He's 92. I know people 22 who can't say that. Because if you don't have an intentional growth plan, your best days aren't ahead of you. You're just hoping it'll get better. And hope is not a strategy. So I'm teaching personal growth. This is fun. I'm teaching personal growth one day, and a guy comes up to me during the break. I wasn't teaching my personal growth plan. By the way, if you don't have this book, you need to get this book, The 15 Laws of Growth. Just order today so Amazon will have it to you tomorrow. Trust me, it's the Bible for personal growth. The 15 Laws of Personal Growth. It's just like the 15 Laws of Leadership, only those are laws in developing and growing and investing in yourself. Are you with me? So my dad's 92 and his greatest days are still ahead of him. By the way, he worked full time through 95. And his best days were still ahead. Because he's compounding. My best days are still ahead. I'm 77. You say, how can you be 77, make more money, influence more people's lives, possibly change the direction of countries, which we're doing right now with presidents of countries? How can you do this at 77? It's very simple. I've been teaching leadership, practicing leadership, building leadership teams all of my life. Today, it's just not me lifting that load. I have tens of thousands of people every day taking my stuff and teaching it and training and developing people out. I've got whole thousands, tens of thousands of people lifting this load. It just compounds. It's not only compounds because who I am, compounds all these people that I've mentored and trained and taught, and all these coaches. Oh my God, it's huge. We have 6 million foot soldiers on leadership in every country in the world. I can go to any country, pull out 30,000, 40,000 people, say, would you help me with this? See, when you really learn to lead, you'll find out real quickly that you can really do good by yourself, but you can't do great by yourself. One is too small of a number to achieve greatness. And leaders know that. And so leaders say, greatness will be me reaching my capacity and developing other people to reach their capacity too. One of our companies is a training company. I mentored the CEO of Delta, mentored the CEO of Microsoft. I got a whole list for you. We train companies. We train big ones, we train small ones, we train companies in leadership. And sometimes we'll say, what we need is we got to develop leaders quickly. So do you have like a crash course in leadership? You got a crash. Now we're on the law of process. We're on the law of, do you have a crash course? I wrote the law of process. I'm the 21 laws guy. Do you have a crash course on leadership? No, we don't have a crash course on leadership. We don't have like a 2-week program that, yeah, woo, outcome leaders. You see, most organizations, they want to microwave leaders. Mm-hmm. They got this leadership microwave and they stick them inside and they push a few numbers and they zap them. And that's why you have so many Pop-Tart leaders running around. Mm-hmm. Dear God, I see them all the time. Oh, there's a Pop-Tart leader. Oh, dear God, spare us. Here comes another one. We need to quit crock-potty leaders, or we need to quit Microsoft. We need to quit, well, I speak for Microsoft. We need to quit microwaving leaders, and we need to start crock-potting leaders. It's a process. And what's so beautiful about you is you're young. You've got a world ahead of you. You've got a life ahead of you. And if you'll just understand that, every day you're either preparing or repairing. Every day. If you want to know more about that, you'll find that in my book, Today Matters. You're preparing and repairing. If you're intentional in your growth, you're preparing. If you're unintentional in your growth, you're repairing. You're always backing up to fix yesterday. Now, let me give you one more quick law, and then let me give you a couple thoughts on high road leadership, and then we'll do some Q&A, because I'm just loving teaching. By the way, you're just so receptive. You're hanging in there. You're leaning in. You're taking notes. I mean, gosh, you're so fun to teach. You're just wonderful to teach. I just did 4,000 sheriffs. That's a tough crowd. Man, I just thought, if I just had a gun, I could do a little bit better. But you're just young and you're leaning in. I just love your heart, because you just said you want to grow. You want to improve yourself. I mean, you want to get better so you can help people get better. And you want your life to get better so your people's life to get better. I love your heart. I love it. I can feel it. But let me give you one more. One more law. And that's the law of solid ground. And the law of solid ground simply says trust is the foundation of leadership. You build your leadership off of being a trustworthy person. A trustworthy leader. Most of you are too young. When you're a little bit older, if I just give you one word, it'll kind of trigger everything I need to teach. It's the word Enron. Enron. Enron was a company in the year 2000, huge company in Houston. And all of a sudden we found out they weren't trustworthy. That who they said they were and who they were weren't the same thing. And what they put on their wall that they wanted people to read and believe, they didn't follow up in their walk. Their wall and their walk didn't agree. And it was like a house of cards. It came down, and it not only came down, but thousands of people lost all their savings. And it was a horrible, horrible thing in corporate America. And then Tyco, and then a whole bunch of companies within a matter of about 3 months. In fact, Time magazine basically called the year 2000 the year of mistrust, because there was just lack of trust in the companies. And I was writing for Time Warner. They called me to New York City and they said, we want you to write a book on business ethics since these businesses are all, kind of messing up. And I said, well, I can't write that book. They said, why? Because I said, there's no such thing as business ethics. They said, what do you mean? I said, what I mean is there's no such thing as business ethics. They said, well, look at what's happening in these businesses, in these companies. I said, I see that. I said, that's not a business ethics problem. Then they said, what's the problem? I said, it's an ethics problem. It's just ethics. See, you either have them or you don't. And if you have ethics, they work in business. Oh, happy day. And if you don't have ethics, they don't work in business. So they said, well, can you write a book on ethics? I said, well, kind of hard. It's hard to write a book on ethics when you don't have absolutes. I mean, then who determines what's right and what's wrong? But I wrote the book. Just a small book on ethics that was probably the most decorated book I've ever written. It was based on the Golden Rule. It was based on a value. Just treat others as you like to be treated yourself. You see, the Golden Rule is accepted in every religion and every culture in the world. Our writing team did research on it. And that's the day that I had my kind of wake-up moment in leadership, because I've been training leaders in leadership skills, developing leadership skills for people. By the way, let me stop here for a moment. The best book to begin reading on leadership, develop your skills, there's a book that I wrote called Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. Because in Developing the Leader Within You 2.0, I have 10 skills that you need to develop as a leader to be very successful in life. Just 10. I have a whole chapter on priorities. All great leaders prioritize their life in such a way they realize activity is not an accomplishment at all. So they're not into activity. They're never impressed by people who work hard. That's not a big deal at all. People work hard. They have nothing in their life. They understand that the first thing you have to do is you have to prioritize how things, the influence factor. There's 10 things you need to do. But I've been teaching skills. And all of a sudden I had a wake-up call with Enron. I said, I need to teach values also. So here, listen very carefully. This is key. When I said everything rises on leadership, there are 2 things that cause leadership to do well. Leadership skills and good values. And you can't substitute one for the other. They complement one another. I have to know how to lead, that's leadership skills. And I have to have good values to lead. Let me explain. If I have good leadership skills, but I have poor values, what I'll do with people is I'll manipulate them. I'll constantly manipulate them because, okay, here you are. Just fasten your seatbelt. 3-minute crash course. Okay, are you ready? But yes. Before I do that, let me ask you a question. Are you learning something? Talk to me.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Learning something? Okay, this is, look at your neighbor, say I'm learning something. Please tell them. Just tell them.
I'm learning something.
Look right back at him and say, not near enough yet. Dear God. Not near enough yet. Not near enough. Now, okay, hang on. This is just huge. There's only one thing that all leaders have in common. This will be another book. Okay? And the only thing that leaders have in common, regardless of country, culture, because I travel internationally all the time. I'm with prime ministers and presidents all the time. We do transformation in countries invited by the president of the country. We're in 7 now. We have 27 presidents of countries in line for us to come in and teach values. So you have to understand, we got this down. This is life-changing. The only thing that all leaders have in common, regardless of country or culture, is that all leaders, great leaders, they see more than others see. In other words, they see a bigger picture. And they see before others see. They not only see a bigger picture, they see it more quickly than anybody else. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They see more and they see before. Now watch this. If I see more than you see, and if I see before you see, let me explain something to you. I win, you lose. We're done with that. I win, you lose. All the time. Not sometimes, all the time. Now, the moment I understand what I call that the leadership advantage. The leadership advantage is when you can see more than others see and you can see before others see, you now have placed yourself in the winning position. So now the question is, what do I do with that advantage? What do I do with the fact that I see more than you? And what do I do with the fact that I see before you? I have two choices. I either use that advantage to help me, which means I win, or I use that advantage to help you, which means you win. And if my values are good, I'll help you. And if my values are bad, I'll help me. When the Soviet Union fell, they asked me to come to the Kremlin. I spoke to 5,000 communists in the communistic hall about what was about to happen to their country. And I talked to them about the leadership advantage. And I talked to them and they were everything was about to change. And that they were going to have good values to lead well. There's a fine line between manipulation and motivation. If I manipulate you, I move you for my advantage. That's always wrong. There's never a right time for a leader to move people where the leader wins and the people loses. That's always wrong. There's a fine line between manipulation, which is a person who has wrong values or bad values, and motivation. Leaders motivate people. They have to move people. If you can't move people, you're not a leader. So that now you're not even in the discussion. You have to move people. But you move people for their advantage. So when I'm with leaders, as I was with the Prime Minister of Cambodia a few months ago when I was doing Asia, when everybody clears the room and there's no media and there's no other people except the President, the Prime Minister, and myself, I lean into them immediately and ask them, the first question I ask them is a very simple question. Are the people of your country better off because you're their leader? Or are you better off? Who's winning here? Ooh. That's right, why the book High Road Leadership. Bringing people together in a world that divides. In our country, we have a bunch of low road leaders. Not high road. Trust me. Tuesday, I'll be sitting with the cabinet in Washington, D.C. Just trust me. Low road leaders. Not high road leaders. Leaders who put themselves before the people, put their agenda before the people. In fact, when I watched the presidential debate, I made the decision. I said, I think I'm going to vote, because one of the things a high road leader does is a high road leader is accountable. They're accountable. In other words, they're accountable for what they did. After all, they're the leader. And I thought, I think I'll vote this year if I can hear either candidate admit that they did something wrong. Oh my God. I'm just going to vote for them. I may not even like them. I'm just going to vote for them because they're honest. So I watched the whole debate. I said, please just tell me that you wish you could change something, or you wish you wouldn't have said that, or you wish you wouldn't have done that. Could we have an authentic moment in the life of a politician? Impossible. By the way, people do not want a perfect leader. They want an authentic leader. We have crappy leaders. Now I'll vote. I'm a citizen. I'll go to the polls and hold my nose. They're low road leaders. They're low road leaders. They're not high road leaders. They don't put the people first. They put themselves first. It's their agenda. So great leaders have great leadership skills, but they also have great values. And when you have great values and you have great leadership skills, then good things happen in your leadership. They always have, and they always will. So when you get the High Road Leadership book, when you get this book, I keep throwing away. This book here. There are 12 chapters in it. Each chapter is a picture of what a high road leader looks like. So as I walk you through it, just take a moment, listen. High road leaders value all people. High road leaders acknowledge their humanness. High road leaders do the right things for the right reasons. High road leaders give more than they take. High road leaders place people above their own agenda. High road leaders embrace authenticity. High road leaders take accountability for their actions. High road leaders live by a bigger picture. High road leaders don't keep score. High road leaders desire the best for others. Every chapter is a picture. This is the best leadership culture book I've ever written. What you do is you take this book and you take your team. If you got 8 members on your team, I don't know how many members you got on your team, but you take your team members and say, let's do a chapter every week. You read the chapter. Next Friday, we spend an hour. When you read the chapter, come ready to answer 2 questions. Question number 1, how did this chapter change my personal life? And question number 2, how did this chapter help me become a better team player for our organization? Those are the 2 questions. I promise you, you're going to develop a leadership culture in 3 months. And remember this, culture is 10 to 1 more important than vision. In fact, culture eats vision for lunch, to be honest with you. Vision is what you see. Culture is what you do. What you do determines how successful you are, not what you see. It's the actions, it's the behavior. These are 12 behaviors of what a high road leader looks like. This is going to help you develop that leadership culture for it. Yeah. I saw that hand clear in the back. I really did. You've been watching me hand out these books to people in the front row. Come on, that's right. You come on up here. You
Oh, I was like, I did it too.
Come on, give her a hand. She just steps out. Step back. Okay, I think I've talked for quite a while, and I think I want to do a little time for Q&A for you because I want to serve you, and how I serve you best is by answering questions. Because you've got questions, hopefully in the area of leadership, you'd like for perhaps to have a little guidance, a little help. I'd be glad to do that. And Peter, I think, will Brett join me?
Yeah, do a couple Q&As with them now. And Brett,
okay, and you'll bring in the other. Okay, so do a couple. So let's do a couple Q&A. I love this. And would you do me a favor? Just stand. I'm going to start with you. And I'll get you next. I saw you. And just give me your name.
Yeah, my name's Joel.
Did you say Joel?
Joel, yeah.
Yeah, Joel.
You got it.
Nice. My name's John. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Yes, sir.
So I know you're a Christian, as I am too, and I'd like to know, how do you balance being in the world but not of the world when it comes to success and business and money? Do you ever find yourself slipping into seasons where you disconnect from God? And how do you handle that?
Yeah, Joel's a great question. First of all, yes, I'm a Christian. I'm not trying to impose that on anybody here, so relax, take a pill. But it's a great question. So let me start. Okay, now he's asking me a faith question, so I'm giving him a faith answer. Again, I'm giving him an answer because he has integrity in his question, so I have to have integrity in my answer. First of all, everything I teach about leadership is from the Bible. Don't get mad. Relax. Everything I teach in a secular setting has its roots in biblical truth. In fact, I have a Maxwell Leadership Bible.
Right here.
Huh? I have it right there. Now give me sometime here. I have to get on my plane, go to San Francisco to speak, but I want to sign that for you, okay? Because that's my favorite. Okay, what he has there, I have 600 leadership lessons taken from the Bible.
Wow.
So if you're a person of faith, you start, I have 600, in fact, all of my secular books I have in the back, but where they're secular books, I put scripture with them, so if you're a Christ follower, you can see scripture in everything I teach. So when you talk about balance, there's no balance at all. It's total foundation. What you need to be balanced is not in truth. Where you need to be balanced is in presentation. Because I'm in a secular world, I don't push my faith on the people at all. I just teach truth. Truth will set you free, not me pushing something. So my balance is the fact that I'm grounded in biblical truth as far as the leadership teaching. Okay. So for example, one more quick, because it's a great question, Joel. I was teaching the top 100 educators in America in a retreat in New Mexico. And they were, from each 50 states, the top 2 educators in the public school movement came together, and they asked me to spend a day with them because we have what we call I-Lead curriculum, which is values-based training for kids in school now. We train over 5 million internationally through this training, and we're coming to America now, and it's catching on very quickly in the public schools. I just was in Texas last Saturday speaking to 4,000 public school educators that are getting ready to launch the I-Lead program. And so I'm teaching values, and this wonderful educator raised her hand and she said, John, you talk about valuing everybody. And she said, that bothers me a little bit because that means you value me. I said, well, I do value you. She said, how can you value me? You don't even know who I am. I said, that's a very fair question. And I have an answer to it, but it's a faith answer. Do I have your permission to give you a faith answer? If you don't want to hear it, I don't have to give you the answer. We can move on to the next question. Well, when you tell people you don't have to answer something, they die for you to answer. You just have to understand. It's a setup that's just, I've lived in that world so much. I don't have to give that answer. It's a, we can go to the next one. Oh, no. She said, give me that. And so I said, okay, my faith answer is very simple. God created you. He valued you in creation. He valued you by giving you spiritual gifts to be successful in life. He values you by making you unique. And if God values you, I don't have to know you. I know God. And that lets me value you. Now, you see how beautiful that was, Joel? Didn't make anybody mad. Just kind of talked to them. You know what I mean? And we went right on. So my whole life is based on biblical teachings, but it's the presentation where we mess up. And one of the reasons I wrote this, in fact, if you really want to know, since you're a person of faith, I have another book that just came out that's going crazy too. I mean, it just came out. In fact, it just came out on Amazon, I think 2 Tuesdays ago. It's called Jesus, the High Road Leader. And it's 8 of those high road principles with Jesus in the Gospels, okay? And I wrote that for Christians because Christians aren't very Christian anymore. And their behavior's kind of bad. And I tell Christians, who you vote for is not as important as how you behave. And you're messing me up by your stinking behavior. You're not Jesus-like at all, so I'm going to rub their nose in the Gospels. And it's just going to be wonderful. So anyway, there you are. That's a great question. Joel. Thank you, sir, right over here. What's your name?
Joel.
Okay. All right, we got a little common habit going on here. With all the Joels, please stand up. Okay, Joel, what's your question, my friend?
So, for one, I just want to say thank you. Like, I've really gotten a lot out of this, and